Hello, welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari leaves Abuja to attend coronation of King Charles in London. Senate calls for establishment of audit tribunal to fight corruption. Plus, New York becomes first U.S. state. First in the news tonight is the #1 citizen of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, who has departed for London, United Kingdom, to join other world leaders invited to attend the coronation of Charles III and his wife, Camilla, as His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen Consort of the United Kingdom, respectively. President Buhari left Abuja after presiding the weekly Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, will take place on Saturday, May 6. Ahead of the coronation, the Commonwealth Secretariat will take advantage of a gathering of leaders in London to host a Commonwealth Summit for presidents and heads of government of Commonwealth countries on Friday, May 5. President Buhari is billed to Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Bas Mustafa, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, the National Security Advisor, NSA, Major General Babagana Manguno, the Director General, National Intelligence Agency, NIA, Ambassador Ahmed Rufai Abubakar, the Chairperson, Chief Executive Officer of Nigerians in Diaspora Commissioner BK Dabriero, and other senior government officials. 30 years since the UN General Assembly's decision proclaiming an International Day for Press Freedom, and the President said the landmark was a tribute to media professionals who risk their lives to keep society informed and educated. Buhari, in a statement, expressed delight that the rights of Nigerian journalists have been protected and upheld in the past 8 years. He charged media professionals to continue to be patriotic, work for the cohesion of the country, and exercise their freedom with a high deal of responsibility by 7% and create 165 million new jobs across the country. The launch, which comes nearly 7 weeks after the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting approved the policy document on March 15, was conducted by the President before the commencement of the weekly FEC meeting today. In his remarks, the President asserted that the vision is a product of a dynamic knowledge-based economy to provide sustainable development by 2050. He expressed the belief that the placed amongst the world's top economies by 2050 will be useful for subsequent administrations. Recall that Buhari first inaugurated the National Steering Committee for the preparation of the Medium-Term National Development Plan 2021-2025 and Nigeria Agenda 2050 in November. In Port Harcourt, the River State capital. The commissioning of 12 flyovers took place in Obiakpo local government area of the state. Present at the inauguration were Speaker, House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila, Governors of Jigawa, Oyo, Ebonyi, Kwara, and Imo states, amongst others. Away from that, the federal government of Nigeria today in Abuja approved a national blockchain policy. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Issa Pantami, disclosed this after this week's Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by the President, Muhammadu Buhari, at the State House, Abuja. Pantami said the new policy was a product of consultations with 56 institutions. He noted that the Security Council has directed regulatory bodies to liaise with the National Information Technology Development Agency to come up with regulatory instruments in all sectors. Meanwhile, the federal government says over 13,000 Nigerians have benefited from its various flood relief interventions across the affected states in the country. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Nasser Guazo, disclosed this to newsmen during a meeting with relevant stakeholders in the humanitarian services in Abuja. Guarzo expressed the commitment of the federal government toward relevant humanitarian agencies to support government response towards providing succor to the victims. According to him, the 2020 flood disaster has resulted in the loss of lives and livelihoods of Nigerians across the country. In the meantime, the federal government says the Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU) has indicated interest to discontinue its case against the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, and the Registrar of Trade Unions, RTU. This is according to a statement by the Director, Press and Public Relations, Ministry of Labour and Employment, Olajide Oshundun, of registration for not rendering annual financial returns and audited accounts for almost 10 years. According to the Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment, ASU has not made financial returns for 5 years, and the penalty is withdrawal or the cancellation of the certificate. The ministry disclosed that the union had indicated it wants to resolve the issue amicably at the Alternative Dispute Resolution ADR Center of the court. Moving on now to the Red Chambers, where Senate has said that if corruption must be nipped in the bud, there was an urgent need for the federal government to establish an audit tribunal that would ensure that issues of corruption were addressed. Speaking in Abuja, after the consideration of a bill for an act to provide for the strict implementation of the National Assembly recommendation cannot be exposed when persons involved are not punished, just as he said that this must be made possible if a tribunal of this nature comes on board. The bill for an act to provide for the strict implementation of the National Assembly recommendation annual federal audit reports and for related matters is sponsored by the Chairman, Senate Committee. Prominent Nigerians and parliamentary institutions urged the United Kingdom government to grant former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu and his wife Beatrice clemency. The call came less than 48 hours to set date for sentencing of the couple. The resolution of the Senate followed a motion on the matter moved by Senator Chukwuka Utazi during plenary. Recall that Ekweremadu daily jury. A third defendant, Dr. Obinna Obeta, was also found guilty with the couple. Meanwhile, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, House of Representatives, and the Economic Committee of West African States ECOWAS Parliament, among others, had called on the UK government to temper justice with mercy. To President Muhammad Buhari for assent. To this end, the House has directed the National Assembly Clerk Magaji Tambuwal to handle the assignment. Essentially, the bill seeks to extend the retirement age of High Court judges from 65 to 70 years. It will be recalled that the bill was part of 46 Constitution alteration bills transmitted to states Houses of the passage of Constitution 5th Alteration Bill number 20, Uniform Retirement Age for Judicial Officers and Pension Rights 2023, sponsored by Idris Wase and 69 other lawmakers. More from the judiciary now, where Ferdinand Kanu against truncating proceedings in the next adjourned date. Justice Binta Nyako gave a warning following today's proceeding that could not go on due to an lawyer, Michael Zekome, in the open court. According to reports, Kanu, through his team of lawyers, had sued the DSS and its Director General as first and second respondents in the matter. Kanu, in the suit, prayed the court for permission to apply for an order of mandamus to compel the DSS. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Abuja has struck out the 1.84 billion naira money laundering charges brought by the federal government against Colonel Nicholas Ashinze, retired, a former military assistant to Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired, and 8 others. Dasuki was a former National Security Advisor, NSA, to former President Goodluck Jonathan. The charges of alleged corruption were thrown out by Justice Okon Abang following its withdrawal by the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, after 7 years. The judge did not pronounce them acquitted. The Supreme Court of Nigeria had in several judgments held that discharging defendants from criminal charges is tantamount to acquittal from the same age. Aircraft evacuating Nigerians stranded in Sudan from Egypt has departed as one. Many Nigerians are stranded in Sudan following the ongoing crisis in the country. Subsequently, the Nigerian Air Force, Air Peace, and other airlines were cleared to fly to Egypt to pick up stranded Nigerians. However, today, the Air Force spokesperson, Air Commodore Ayodele Famuyiwa, in a text message on WhatsApp, confirmed that its aircraft is expected to land at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport by 11:23 p.m. Away from that, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, has directed state commissioners of police to tidy up their case files on electoral offenders in the 2023 general election for onward submission to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for prosecution. According to him, while case files of electoral offenders would be handed over to INEC, the police are already prosecuting those who committed other offenses on election day. The IG, represented by the Commissioner for Police in charge of Election Planning, Monitoring and Nigeria, organized by the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies in Kuru, Jazz, with support from the European Union. Elsewhere, women and youths in large numbers have blocked the busy Jos-Abuja highway to register their displeasure over the incessant attacks by gunmen in plateau communities. Reports say the protest follows the killing of 2 youth. Talk to newsmen said people are not happy over the continuous attacks and killings by gunmen in their communities. According to reports, the victims were killed a few meters from a military checkpoint in the community. Advisor Media Project to Obaseki Crusoe Osage, the governor expressed appreciation to members of the council for their service to the government and people of the state. In politics, the People's Democratic Party (PDP) has officially unveiled Senator Dino Melaye as its governorship candidate for the November 11 gubernatorial election in Kogi State. Senator Melaye was unveiled today by key party stakeholders in the state from anyone he offended. He said peace will be established in PDP, assuring that the party will do things differently when they get to power. He promised to return power to the Eastern Senatorial Districts after 8 years in office. Still in politics, the Sokoto State Governor-elect Ahmed Aliyu has set up a Finance and Debt Verification Committee to probe the outgoing Governor Aminu Tambuwal's administration. The committee, headed by the deputy, will ascertain if the money borrowed were utilized for the purpose they were meant for. The 20-member committee was among the subcommittees inaugurated today by the APC Transition Committee Chairman, Ambassador Abubakar Sani Makaman Sokoto. According to reports, some lawmakers of the state have alleged that the Tambuwal administration has secured 86 billion naira in loans for the state. Recall that the incoming governor was elected on the platform of the All Progressives Congress APC, which is the main opposition party to the ruling People's Democratic Party (PDP) in the state. In a release by his chief press secretary and senior special assistant media, Ekere Teodor, Emmanuel lauded the robust relationship that has existed between the media and his government. He added that though they have had moments of disagreement in the manner of certain reportage of government activities by the press, the media, however, has to a large extent not been overly adversarial. He said they have accepted criticisms that are done without malice and have allowed media practitioners the freedom and latitude to report and analyze events without deploying the interest. In a related development, media practitioners in New York, Kwapam State Capital, have called on the government to domesticate the Press Freedom Act, which was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari. They made the call in commemoration of the World Press Freedom Day, marked annually on May 3, to evaluate the level of press freedom around the world. Defend the media from attacks theme shaping a future of rights. They said journalists have rights to expression and information. Media practitioners, however, added that there are lots of challenges facing journalists in the state and the world at large, including the well-being of workers, healthcare, among others.
shaping the rights of freedom of rights, freedom of speech as a means to the end. It's just the beginning. The moment you begin to accept that the media has a responsibility to have the freedom of speech, you begin to have the understanding of a smooth relationship between the government and the media. So this is just the beginning, this is just the foundation. And I'm happy that this is coming at the 30th anniversary, and the theme is also significant. We have our limits, and also government also know why they also have their limits, and also be able to ensure that they also respect, and then know that this job one day we shall benefit.
Well, that we should keep on doing our duty without any fear or favor. That one day we surely believe that what we are facing now will be a thing of past.
For the goal of this great profession, hoping that one day there are little hitches here and there in the world, some part of the world, and Nigeria, and yes. But I can, boast of Akwa Ibom State without mincing words.
Journalists should be allowed to express themselves. Where journalists express themselves, I think it is most appropriate that the government should look in that direction and see how that agitation, if properly fixed, could add to the development of the society. We are partners in the development of the state and country, and our expression is always in the direction of development. Add to the development of the society. We are partners in the development of the state and country, and our expression is always in the direction of development.
Still to come in the news. UK to ban all cold calls selling financial products. Do stay with us.
are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
On the humanitarian and security situation in Sudan following weeks of clashes. According to further reports, the UN chief in his two-day visit will hold talks with President William Ruto and also meet on Thursday. People after heavy rains pounded the western part of the country. Habiti Gecko said the main roads in the province, including the new roads snaking along lakes, are underway. Meanwhile, the divorce case between the daughter of Zimbabwe's almost $80 million. Bona Mugabe, aged 33, filed for divorce from former airline pilot Simba Musahune Chigore in Sudan's joint custody of the couple's 3 children and a share of the assets, which include at least 21 farms, to the government's one-man, one-farm policy. The foreigners jailed and reportedly killed. Speaking on World Press Freedom Day today, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres issued a letter in New York. He said all freedom depends on press freedom, calling it the foundation of democracy and justice and the lifeblood of human rights, who have been jailed.
Financial collapse in every corner of the world, freedom of the press is under attack. Truth is threatened by disinformation and hate speech seeking to blur the lines between fact and fiction, between science and conspiracy. The increased consent that stifle journalists are further expanding censorship and threat.
Still on the foreign scene, New York has become the first U.S. state to pass a law banning gas stoves and other fossil fuels in most new buildings, in a victory for environmental activists. The legislation, the move aims to tackle climate change by reducing New York's dependence on natural gas. The law, which could face legal challenges from the gas industry, will require solely electric heating and cooking in new buildings under 7 stories from 2026. Meanwhile, Russia said today it had shot down 2 drones aimed at President Vladimir Putin's attacks in the run-up to celebrations for the nation's most important holy day on May 9, marking the Soviet victory over the Nazis. And while the operation was described as a development, a Ukrainian presidential advisor said today that Kyiv had nothing to do with an alleged drone attack on the Kremlin, adding the accusations were likely Russia's attempt to justify any of its own attacks planned for the coming. Volodymyr Zelensky was in Finland for talks with Nordic leaders. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said he cannot validate Russia's accusation that Ukraine tried to assassinate Russian President Vladimir Putin in a drone attack. But elsewhere, police in Brazil searched ex-President Jair Bolsonaro's home today as part of an investigation into allegations of falsifying COVID-19 vaccination certificates. The far-right ex-president, who ruled 2019 through 2022, faced widespread criticisms for his unorthodox handling of the pandemic of falsified COVID-19 vaccination data into the Health Ministry's electronic vaccination records system, but did not mention Bolsonaro by name. From the foreign scene now, Iranian authorities have begun imposing fines and restaurants and shopping malls where customers do not wear the Islamic hijab to force shop owners to make the headscarf compulsory. Protests brought them down. Meanwhile, Iranian women, however, say this crackdown will not stop them from fighting for social freedoms. Of Belgrade today, the Interior Ministry said the shooting occurred at about 8:40 a.m. at an elementary school in front of the suspect who carried a gun. It also said 6 children and 1 school teacher were wounded, and that the police has arrested a teenager suspected of carrying out the attack with his father's gun. President of Belgrade is record of the shooter. Meanwhile, all police forces are still on the ground and are intensively working to shed light on all the facts and circumstances that led to this.
Thank you, Xavier Roberts. Good evening. It's business news, and my name is Blyden Okem. In the news, the United Kingdom is set to ban or will be covered by the ban, aiming to stop fraudsters selling sham insurance products or cryptocurrency schemes. According to reports, a new fraud squad will be set up with 500 staff, up from 120 staff at the moment. However, Labour and the Liberal last summer, 41 million people were targeted by suspicious calls and texts, according to media regulator Ofcom. To Italy, looking at Italian unemployment 2020 from the downwardly revised 8% in the previous month and firmly below market expectations of 8%. The result extended the resilience of the euro area job market despite a series of rate hikes by the ECB. The number of unemployed people decreased by 22,000 people to 1.98 million, while the number of employed individuals also rose by 22,000 to 23.349 million. Consequently, the labor force participation rate was unchanged from the prior month at 66.2%. Meanwhile, the youth unemployment rate, measuring job seekers between 15 and 24 years of age, eased by 0.1 percentage point to 22.3, $73 per barrel today, not far from more than a year low of $70 touched on March 20th, pressured by worries about demand-sapping recession and rising fuel stocks. The Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank will likely tighten their policies this week, adding to market fears that tighter financial conditions will push developed economies into recession. Moreover, the latest Energy Information Administration's weekly report showed that gasoline inventories in the U.S. unexpectedly jumped last week by 1.7-fold, second largest economy. It's time for the Nigerian stock market report. At the end of today's trading session of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the benchmark All-Share Index sparked 88.71 basis points to close at 52,207.77 points. The valuation of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 28.4 trillion naira. Adova led the gainers with 9.25% share price appreciation, closing at 18 naira 30 kobo per share. On the losing side, Transcorp Nigeria came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 9.49% at 2 naira 29 kobo per share. Transcorp Nigeria recorded the highest volume of 277 million traded shares, followed by Access Holdings with 174 million and Fidelity Bank with 31.4 million traded shares. This is all on business news, and back to Xavier Robert for the rest of the news. Thank you.
Many thanks, Blyden. Still to come in the news. Arsenal fan arrested after laser pen incident during Chelsea clash. Let's tell this. Many thanks for staying tuned. Now in health, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has said it was extending its investigation of Indomie noodles to factories and markets following fear of the presence of ethylene oxide, a potential cancer-causing substance in the special chicken flavor of Indomie instant noodles. NAFDAC, however, noted that Indomie's special chicken flavor instant noodles, recalled by the Malaysia and Taiwan authorities, is not registered for sale in Nigeria. According to NAFDAC, Indomie noodles began the random sampling of Indomie noodles, including the seasoning, from the production facilities and the markets for the presence of ethylene oxide, as well as extending the investigation to other brands of instant noodles offered for sale to Nigerians. So in health, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention (NCDC) has urged state governments to ensure increased sensitization, surveillance, and response to Lassa fever. The NCDC said while the federal government coordinates the Lassa fever response at the national level, the state governments must take responsibility for their citizens that have problems within their boundaries. Johns Hopkins Program for International Education in Gynecology and Obstetrics in Abuja, the Director General of the NCDC, Dr. Adetifa Ifedayo, said there are still gaps, especially at the subnational, used to invest in that space. Let's head over now to Isaac for trending sports stories.
Hello Mudrik's face during Wednesday's 3-1 win over Chelsea. Mudrik was targeted on his first appearance at the Emirates since turning down a move to Arsenal to join Chelsea for £88.5 million in January. The Ukraine international was billed as he came onto the pitch as a second-half substitute, and a green light was flashing on his face for much of his time on the pitch. Arsenal have described the incident as dangerous and totally unacceptable, and have confirmed an arrest was made after the game. The Arsenal statement said, and I quote, "An arrest has been made following the use of a laser during last night's match. This behavior is dangerous and totally unacceptable, and we were relatively quiet 90 minutes after coming on for Enzo Fernandez as Chelsea slumped to a 6th consecutive defeat under interim manager Frank Lampard. The FA is also looking into the incident." We're talking about boxing. New Zealand boxer David Light is in Auckland Hospital receiving treatment after suffering a mild stroke, according to a statement issued on behalf of Pitch Boxing. Light is reported to have become unwell upon returning to New Zealand following his death in the aftermath of the bout. Having returned home on April 1st, Light first began feeling unwell on April 5th and sought medical attention. An initial CT scan was clear. He was diagnosed with delayed concussion and discharged. However, continuous symptoms led to Light being admitted at the Waitakere Hospital on the 17th of April. He is now receiving treatment at the hospital, with Pitch Boxing saying doctors expect him to recover fully in the next coming days. But talking about football, Leeds United have sacked manager Javi Garcia and appointed former England boss Sam Allardyce in a bid to avoid relegation from the Premier League. Spirit United, who are out of the bottom three only on goal difference to safety with 4 games remaining. His first game in charge is against leaders Manchester City on Saturday. Allardyce, who will be assisted by former Enki Dons Charlton and also United manager Carl Robinson, told reporters that it took him 2 seconds to say yes to the job. Director of football Victor Orta left the club by mutual consent yesterday, having been in disagreement with the board over Garcia's position. But that's it on sports. My name is Isaac. Back to you, Xavier.
Many thanks, Isaac. Now, on entertainment news, Jamie Foxx remains hospitalized after suffering a medical emergency 3 weeks ago. as friends urge fans to pray for him. The actor, aged 55, is back in action. Meanwhile, Jamie Foxx's longtime friend Charles Alston, better known as Charlie Mark, has sent a plea for prayers and well wishes for the actor, who has remained hospitalized for more than 3 weeks after suffering a medical emergency. Still on entertainment, singer Davido has sent a message to Rema on Instagram after his historic ode to her happy birthday, a message which indicated how proud he was of Rema and what he had accomplished. Recall that Rema announced he would be performing at the iconic O2 Arena in November 2023, making him the youngest Nigerian artist to ever achieve this feat. Lastly, on entertainment, the Big Brother Niger Season 7 winner Josephine Otapo, simply known as Fina, has revealed that she might get married soon. The reality star disclosed that she is getting a lot of marriage proposals. Taking to her Twitter handle recently, Fina revealed that suitors have been bombarding her Snapchat account with marriage proposals. She said it was a sign that she is about to settle down. A revelation sparked excitement, with fans flooding the comment section with advanced congratulatory messages as well as wedding invite requests. That's all we have for you. Be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You've been watching Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert. Wishing you a terrific night rest. Bye-bye for now.